hello. Welcome to the Ale and Audio Podcast Extra. So this is the stuff you will see on YouTube. We occasionally do this. We last did it with Stuart Brewing not so long ago, earlier this year. And we'll also, now we've got the radio station as well, we'll stick this on the radio. So you may be well be listening to this on Ale and Radio. But I've got a very special chat today. A couple of guys who I remember they left a comment on one of our what you're doing at the weekend sort of posts. That's how I first came across them. And then I went and looked at their YouTube channel, and then they offered me to send me some beers out, one of which I've had and I'll be talking about very shortly, and the other I'll be drinking with them. So yeah, it's Stu and Tom from the Lager Logs, and let me bring them both in while I give them both a massive round of applause. Here they are.
Wow, you definitely don't deserve it that loud and that intensely. Could you quiet down a little bit? That's too much. Could you put that music back on? I was just getting into the groove then, getting warmed up.
They do.
Limbering up for the show.
Yeah, they do get very lively, our studio audience. But yeah, there we go. So Tom and Stu, it's a pleasure to meet you both in sort of like virtual form, but in person at the same time, not just through messages and all that kind of thing. I'm not going to leave it too long before we get on the beer, and then we'll do it backwards way around. We'll open the beer, start drinking it, and then we'll talk about the beer and also what you do. Otherwise, we'll get to the end and then have to open the beer. And then that's miserable, isn't it? We're getting thirsty. So you sent me, first of all, you sent me two. You sent me Scott's Stag Brew, a extra special bitter, extra special bitter. Yeah, that's what it was. And that was really good. And you know what? I don't drink enough bitter these days because, you know, we all go crafty and stuff, and that kind of gets seen a bit more traditional, but I don't drink enough of this these days. That was really good. And I watched the video, which was brilliant. I really like that. The fact you can get straight to the Stag Do video. Enjoyed that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But the one we're going to go for now, and I have got myself a Stein for it because it is Oktoberfest time of recording. This is a Pilsner, so it kind of, you know, it's like kind of like, it's like European sort of thing in it. So I thought, you know, might as well make most of it. So are we all opening up, or is it just me who's got
one? I happen to have one right here for some reason.
Oh, perfect.
You hadn't said anything about this. I just tend to have these lying around the place at all times. You know, if I do get thirsty, I might need to grab a bottle opener though. So you two talk amongst yourselves.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surrounded by these, by the way.
I'll continue to introduce you, but let's start with Stu then while you're on. So the Lager Logs, tell us to start off with about the Lager Logs, where it all started for you both. And I can tell instantly, I'm one for accents, I can pick them up. One of you's Scottish, which is where you seem to be based.
Aye.
But the other one, have you got, I don't want to get this wrong, but have you got a slight Scouse accent, Tom? Maybe, or maybe not. No,
I didn't think so. But if that's what you want to hear, I'm happy with that.
I think I got a little bit of like, what do you call him? The drummer, Ringo. I got Ringo style, like Thomas the Tank Engine at the start. I think it's more his tone. I think it's more his tone. It's more his tone than his accent. That's what I got.
Okay, maybe those many years of watching Nick Jr. as a kid are finally paying off.
Now I'm hearing the accent. So come on, tell us where you're from. So we've got, obviously, Stu, you're from Scotland. Are you from Edinburgh or Glasgow?
No, I'm just north of Edinburgh in Fife, the Kingdom of Fife.
Very good. And what about yourself then? What about yourself then, Tom?
I originally from Huddersfield. I've been in the Midlands for, too many years now. So, yeah, I might have a strange hybrid thing going on. That's probably why you're picking up the Beatlesque tone.
Yeah.
But I might pull out the Lennon later, the McCartney.
Yeah.
The other guy.
So Huddersfield is just up the road from me because I'm in Sheffield, so that's not too far at all. But yeah, welcome to the podcast. So yeah, tell us about the Lager Logs and where this all started.
Well, normally Stu just kind of bangs on about it. Every time we come on as guests to a podcast, he always just takes a spotlight, just talking. So I think for this one, Stu, I should probably say a few things. Maybe have a drink first, though, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well,
let's pour some beer.
While you're pouring, because I've started already. This is kind of darker than what I was expecting as well. but it's lovely. It's really nice. Really enjoying it.
Us too.
And you brewed it yourself, which no doubt we'll get to talking about very shortly. But yeah, this looks and tastes very, very nice. I'll make sure I grab a picture of it, as I did with the first beer, which I had before we started. So yeah, there we go. Cheers. So
Cheers.
Tom, the lager
Cheers.
logs.
Thanks for having us on, bud.
That's all right.
Oh, the lager logs. Yeah. So originally a podcast that me and Stu started during lockdown. As a lot of people were, we were very bored, very broke, looking for ways to kind of spend our weekends that were kind of cheap and obviously staying indoors. Me and Stu have known each other for years before that on an Asian film podcast called Podcast on Fire, which Stu co-founded or founded. Stu, I don't want to take that title away from you. Founder, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. And then I got invited on, was a big fan of the show, got invited on after a couple of years of listening to it. That's how me and Stu kind of got together and started chatting. Was on Stu's other podcast, Films and Swearing, a couple of times. Really enjoyed it and kind of started thinking, we should do something together. And then on the Saturday nights, Friday nights maybe, we'd have these kind of epic Skype nights where we'd get probably a bit too drunk. And me and Stu would always be the last one standing. And I think after maybe 6 or 7 pints, the one night I had the genius idea of starting a podcast. And then I think within half an hour, Stu had already bought the domain rights to the websites.
The Twitter, the Instagram,
the email,
all the handles.
Everything, absolutely everything. And I woke up and he said to me, you were serious about this, right? And I was like, yeah, I guess I was. Yeah, Stu, yeah. Got nothing else better to do, right? So we, just started the podcast and then it's kind of evolved out of that really into a YouTube show. We were basically reviewing 2 beers each episode. We then started kind of doing interviews, met some really cool people, chatted to them about kind of their beers or their beer related shows they've done. And then, the YouTube was almost like a natural extension. We started recording a few bits while we were podcasting. And then it's kind of now the main thing we concentrate on really is kind of different episodes, different themed episodes, whatever kind of takes our fancy really a lot of the time. So it's cool to have the YouTube show because there's a lot of freedom with kind of the things that we select to focus on. Whereas with the podcast, it was a bit more kind of a bit more structured and a bit more kind of had a bit more of a kind of format to it. Whereas the YouTube, we kind of just do what we want, really.
You can do a lot with, I mean, I don't do that much YouTube, but I know that you can do so much more with it because you don't, you're opening up to more people's senses. You've got sight as well as sound. Whereas when you're doing podcasts, you've really got to focus on the sound, haven't you? And, you've got to kind of hone yourself in on what you're talking. When you're talking about beer and the colour and stuff like that, or, when with YouTube, you can get out and about and go and film things while you're doing it. And you don't maybe have to worry so much either about the audio all the time on the YouTube because the kind of sound and the vision go together to make it understandable. Where with podcasts, you've really got to focus on the audio, haven't you, sort of thing?
I think so, yeah. We do regret unleashing the sights on the public. We've made numerous apologies about it, putting up with this and that. But I think that, yeah, you're definitely right on that one. And it's kind of good or you've got the chance to incorporate more like visual ideas, and we've done kind of game shows and we've had other people on and a lot more attractive people than we are. And it's really kind of helped us grow.
Oh, brilliant! We love a game show. We do quite a lot of game. We've been doing one recently on the podcast, which I could maybe have a go at with you later or something. But we do one called Blankety Blank, and it's where you've got to kind of fill in the. You've got like a beer title, a brewery, and then the brewery location, and we take some of those out, and you've got to fill in the blanks in the list, sort of thing.
I wish you would have
Ah.
told me in advance. I would have
It's
revised.
yeah,
Getting
yeah.
flashbacks to GCSEs here.
What I'll do is we'll get you
Scary.
on. We'll get you on another time, but I'll do a the 15 beers or the 10 beers that I'll pick Scottish ones, or things based on the YouTube channel and things that you've done as well. So
Awesome.
maybe I'll do that maybe. But it's presented by Lily Cabbaged, is Blankety Blank. So yeah, there we go.
I look forward to it.
But anyway, going back to your videos, I mean, one of the things I spotted that you're doing a lot of, and that seems to be really successful, is you're doing kind of a lot of like beer travel vlogs and so on. So I know that you've obviously there was the amazing Stag Do one, which is on the which you can actually get to by one of the beers you sent me, which was Scott's Stag Brew, which is one of your. I think you was the best man, weren't you, Tom? Is that right?
I was, yeah, unfortunately.
So you took your mate off along with obviously Stu, and I can't remember the other guy's name. What was he called again? He wasn't. He was the one who wasn't as keen on craft beer as well introduced to craft beer. Yeah. So you took him around Edinburgh. So you got to the Wee Vault and loads of other places as well. Stuart Brewing, obviously, and as part of that, you did a brew day, didn't you? Where you created Scott's Stag Brew. And I believe the one we're drinking now was a different brew day, I'm assuming. I'm thinking.
No, surprisingly. These were all done on the same day.
Okay.
We'd made such like a large volume of beer. The only thing that we got to like the last stage where it came to adding the yeast. And that's where they suggested you've got enough to fill 2 barrels. If you add a different yeast to each, you could come away with 2 different brews. And they suggested with the ingredients we had, it would probably go quite well doing an ESB, an extra special bitter. And as soon as I heard like those words, didn't even need to look at Tom and Scott. I knew already like their eyes would have lit up, because these are definitely like good old traditional like real ale boys.
Yeah.
So getting a chance to kind of get an ESB out of this trip, yeah, I couldn't fight it. I had to let them have that one.
We were kind of talked into it, but at the same time, we liked what we were hearing, to be honest. And really, I think what kind of made us go through with it, or kind of made us kind of want to do it, was the realization that the ESB and the Pilsner, the kind of DNA are quite similar, to be honest. There's only that slight variation of things that make them what they are. And I think we were kind of straddling that line a little bit. We could have gone either way, so why not do both? This is a fantastic beer, if I say so myself, but I don't think we really kind of hit the traditional taste of a Pilsner, but I do like it.
I was going to say it's different for a Pilsner, but I do what I like about it is that it's not gassy. And I mean, I'm drinking, it feels like I'm having some big gulps of this, which I don't think I'd be able to do with a more gassy.
It's smooth, right?
Yeah,
smooth. It's got this kind of subdued. I said to you today, almost like a watermelon kind of flavor there. Like bizarrely, there's this kind of sweetness there that you don't really get with a Pilsner. So I think when I first tried it, I was a bit disappointed, but I think it's a good beer in its own right. But I think the ESB came out really, really well. And I said to Stu, I think it's almost like a complete rip-off of Fuller's ESB. It's going to go almost like the exact same taste profile as that does, and it really kind of blew me away when I tasted it. And I was like, we made this while we were drunk.
I mean, it must have been fun to work with Stuart Brewing as well, because they're great, and they've been on our podcast before as well. So how was it working with Stuart Brewing?
They put up with a lot of shit. We really rate them for that. We'd already visited a couple of bars before we actually made it to the brew day, but no, they were really cool. Talked us through the entire process, and were very open to our kind of wacky ideas of, English Pilsners and ESB fantasies, which is really cool of them. They made it kind of, very easy to do.
Brilliant. I mean, the one that we had that they sent to us to taste while we were drinking I can't seem to find it on the website now. So it must have been either a special one they did at the time, but it was It was this. It was something. Oh, I'm trying. It's really in my head, and I can't.
It's like
You know,
a
it
breakfast bar.
it it was
Um,
it was really thick. It was
Like a
it was.
Nutrigrain brew.
I don't know if it was. I'm trying to. I've
They
tried
should
to
do
go.
that. If they
is
haven't done that yet, they need
part
to
of the
jump on that.
project,
That would be
7 beers.
fantastic.
I'm like Rain Man
Yeah,
when it comes to Stuart Brewing.
it was quite sort of like an experimental one, but I can't
Aye,
seem to find it on the. Yeah, it's not the raspberry and honey porridge oat ale
that's what
pale.
I'm
It's not.
thinking.
Yeah, it was. Oh, I'm really doing my nutting what it is now, but I'll try and dig it out by going. Thing is, when you have so many beers on Instagram, it's just impossible to find them, isn't it? So that's the issue. But I'll maybe have a look before the end. But yeah, I mean that day that you had in Edinburgh looked brilliant. I love watching that, and I love that you can get straight to that from the bottle by scanning the QR code. That's great. The other sort of travel vlog that I saw is on there. I have started watching. And I know there's going to be people in our audience because obviously we have a kind of like radio show style podcast, and obviously the radio station Alien Radio itself. One that they're going to be interested in watching is the where you went to the place of Iron Maiden, and you've got like something like 15,000 views on that video as well. So yeah, tell us about that one.
Yeah. I was in London last summer. I was taking my family to like a big wrestling show at Wembley Stadium. But since I was in town, it was the perfect excuse for me and Tom to get together, get up to some hijinks. And I think just a few months prior, I'd found out that this bar was the Current Horses bar, was claimed to be the birthplace of Iron Maiden. And I think the bar itself was like an Iron Maiden museum. And then you go downstairs and then you're in like the gig, the basement, where they played like back in the 70s, like 50 odd years ago. So we reviewed a lot of Trooper beer on our channel, and we get some good traction. A lot of people seem to watch those videos. So we thought, let's go to
Almost
the
too
birthplace of
much.
Iron. Yeah. So we thought we'll go there, have a few drinks, make a little video whilst we're there. And yeah, it just became chaotic. We ended up drinking every Trooper we could get our hands on, hanging around. I think we'd just hang around outside of the kitchen, just making silly videos and just taking in, like, it was brilliant, just atmosphere. Just looking at
It,
all the memorabilia on the walls, all the bottles, the cans, and yeah, that had like heavy metal karaoke in the basement.
it sounds amazing. I'm going to definitely go and watch the rest of that as well. But it looked absolutely brilliant. And assuming that's more, because that again, the great thing about YouTube is that you can get out there, can't you? And you can go exploring and so on. I mean, I think there's one. I think you went to Dublin as well. Is that right? Did you get to Dublin in one of the videos?
I did that at the beginning of the year. Just following our local ice hockey team as we're playing against the Belfast Giants. And we were there a couple of days, and I thought, right, let's go to a few bars, just try and turn it like a little travel vlog, because yeah, we just seen how popular our London video was. I thought, right, well, come on, let's put the time and effort, go and find some beers in Ireland that I won't find back at home. So I kind of purposely going to bars and looking for something I'd never seen and asking for a cheeky half pint.
It's brilliant. So, obviously, how long is it? Just remind me again, how long is the YouTube channel itself been going?
I registered. It's I think 4 years. I think there's one video that's been on our channel for 4 years, but we didn't start making videos properly for the channel until 2022. So yeah,
Very good.
We're 2 years into the YouTube properly.
Well, everyone give them a follow because they are, they're creating some really interesting stuff. And like I said, the videos are great. I love the kind of, you wearing on some of the videos I've watched, you kind of like wearing some sort of like body cam as you go around as well. So you kind of get to, is that?
Yes, I'm getting more unhinged as the videos go on. The second half of the Stuart Brewing brew day, I was we were bottling the beer, and I had like a chest harness that I would wear. I'd done like a 5K run at Stuart Brewing last summer, and I had a chest cam on for that. But I've since lost the harness, So when it came to the bottling day, I decided just to have like a head cam. So I just had a camera strapped to my forehead as I was going around bottling beer. Thankfully, we were the first ones in the brewery that day and had like an hour to ourselves. So I didn't feel as self-conscious, and we had a good few samples whilst bottling. So all the anxiety and fear of looking like a twat in public slowly disappeared.
I mean, this is
Well,
clearly
that's never bothered me.
This is clearly a good thing. The fact that you do this, this podcast and the YouTube videos and stuff, it's a clearly good thing. Because obviously you've become, really good friends. But you get to meet up. Because obviously you don't live near each other, but you get to meet up as well, don't you? Occasionally to do some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And
you're not sure. You're not sure, Tom.
Still working that out, still figuring it all out. Yeah, to be honest. But no, I think we've seen each other in a couple of weeks, aren't we, Stu, for some secret booze-related plans. So we're gonna probably have a few other bits for the channel. We always end up kind of coming out the other end of the tunnel with something to put on the YouTube.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's one of those kind of rare treats for us, really. We only see each other kind of once a year, which is probably more than enough. But we always kind of do something a bit different. It's never just kind of like a few drinks here, a few drinks there. I think we always do something kind of, I don't know, kind of high concept for some reason, and I blame Stu for that. It's his fault.
I found the name of the beer, by the way, that I got from Stuart Brewing. It was Under and Over, the Oat Cream IPA, 6.5%. It was a collab with Goodland Brewing. I want to say they were New Zealand, but I'd have to double check. But that was brilliant. That was like super proper thick and oaty. It was really nice. Can't see it on the website now.
Do too many beers, to be honest.
Well, they're branching out, aren't they? They're I know that they're all around Edinburgh. If you go to Edinburgh, you find a lot of their beers all around everywhere.
Stuart Brewing country through there.
And I've saw recently as well that the beers are in Aldi as well, or will be Scotland Aldi's at least.
They're pretty much in every Scottish supermarket at this point.
Never down here, no, never ours, which is always a real shame. I always just get so jealous over, what Stu finds in his local Aldi compared to kind of what I find down here, because it's just night and day a lot of the time.
I mean, it's worth shouting, isn't it, about the Scottish breweries and how amazing they are doing. I mean, there's the one we don't talk about, but aside from that, there's the
71.
Some of that, but aside from that, there are some absolutely banging Scottish breweries at the minute, winning awards left, right, and centre. So let's get on to talking about beer then. We kind of know what Tom likes, because it sounds like from chatting that you were massively happy to create this extra special bitter. So you're quite a real ale fan. Cask ale,
milkshake IPAs are my number one, and then bitters just below that on the scale. No, I'm definitely more of a traditional beer fan, and I think Stu's more kind of craft. And I think throughout our interaction over the years, we've kind of opened each other up maybe to kind of new experiences, both sexually and beer-wise, and that's really cool. But yeah, I think mainly, I think maybe season 2 or season 3, I think Stu had probably had enough of traditional beers and was like, we really need to start doing something a bit different and branching out. And I think he kind of started, trying to kind of get me onto more craft beers, which I really appreciate, because again, it's not something I tend to look out for or drink a lot of, but I've really discovered a lot of fantastic beers through that, and I hope Stu's sample some traditional beers that he has slightly liked, or at least not hated.
I think that's great though that you're covering both bases there, because real ale, cask ale, they are very different, but then they sort of belong together. They are like brothers or sisters, however you want, whether or non-gendered, however you want to see beer.
Estranged cousins, I would say.
Brothers in yeast.
it was only cask beer week last week, wasn't it? It was National Cask Ale Week. And we've got to remember that, a lot of the stuff that we get now, the craft beer, the kegged beer sort of stuff, a lot of that did come from sort of the cask ale roots, didn't it? No, one that I always talk about is Jaipur, and which is the Thornbridge Jaipur, but that was always a traditional cask beer. And then over the years, it's kind of evolved, and it's always cask, so you can still get it in cask, but then it's evolved into this kegged version, and then the DDH Jaipur, and then the extra DDH Jaipur, and all the other stuff that they've run. They did it on the Burton Union and all that.
Good beer, yeah. Jaipur X, that's a really good beer, yeah.
So you can see the evolution, can't you, through from real ale to keg, and I think it's great that you two kind of got both those bases covered for your podcasts and your videos, obviously.
Come on, Stu, I've done all the talking. Let's see what you think.
Definitely. I mean, when looking at the beer reviews on our channels, like, surprisingly, some of the more popular ones are the likes of like McEwen's Export, Banks's Mild.
Spoken like a true hipster.
Hobgoblin Gold?
What?
The one that's got the really trendy artwork now. That's really more appealing to me.
The one that looks like it's come from a children's colouring book. Yeah, another one. So
comparing that to like the triple threat of Iron Brew Sours, we definitely cover both bases. And yeah, I think maybe I put Tom through more of a crafty route nowadays, but I think we've probably tried all of those shillings from back in the day.
Well, look, there's questions I want to ask you about, like your favourite beers and stuff, but I know that a really great... We do a feature on the Ale and Audio podcast called Desert Island Beers, and it's Joe, who's one of our contributors, and he'll interview people. Well, he'll get you to send him voice notes back answering certain questions, like your favourite beers, your favourite breweries, your favourite album to drink to, your favourite pubs, those kind of things. You two would be brilliant on that. He'd have to do a double episode, and it'd be a lot of editing for him because obviously they're different. You're not going to agree on anything, so you both can have to answer different, the same question but with different answers. So I'm going to get him on to getting in touch with you, because you will be a great episode of Desert Island Beers. So I'm not going to ruin that by asking you all of those questions now. But this has been brilliant, I hope that we'll be chatting with you again in future. Maybe we'll meet up at some point as well. The Pub Shed and Beer Lover community on Instagram, which is kind of where our podcast came from, mainly the home bar owners and the Pub Shed is, see, I'm starting this one sort of thing now. See, you've got a little man down there, little studio as well, Stu. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. It's a walk-in cupboard, actually.
I'm going to say you look like Andy Peters in the broom cupboard from the original children's BBC days. Yeah. You might be too young to remember that. I'm not, but anyway, yeah. Our audience came from that, and we have meetups all the time, and we've got a big Sheffield one, which we have an annual Sheffield one every year, and the next one's 26th of October. Might be a bit soon for you to pull it all together, but if you could get there, it'd be absolutely brilliant to see loads of Instagram beer lovers going, and it'd be brilliant if we could see you there. But thanks for chatting with us. This beer is amazing, as is the one that I had before I came on. Really enjoyed him. Don't normally have two beers on a Tuesday night. I'm treating myself there, but I wanted to make sure I'd at least tasted both. So thank you very much both for coming on. We'll chat again in future, and cheers for your time. And obviously everybody go to YouTube and check out the Lager Logs Pints of View with Tom and Stu. Before we finish, I'm going to ask Tom to do this. Stu's probably going to shake his head that I'm asking Tom. You tell the audience why you should listen to and watch the Lager Logs.
Oh, this is far too much responsibility for me to take on. You should watch it because I know how boring 21st century life is these days, guys. I know how depressing it is. It gets you down. You got to meet people online, virtually. There's no one really to kind of hold, and really cherish kind of in real life, a real life human being made of skin and with a soul. And that's why you should check out the Lager Logs, because we're giving that to you virtually. It's like a virtual hug after a few beers with a close friend. That says it all, guys. You could look like that if you listen to the Lager Logs. Check it out.
Thank you very much, Tom and Stu from the Lager Logs.
Cheers, bud.